The worst horror movie I ever saw was fucking great.
Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we are a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in popular and not so popular franchises. And today we are discussing The Omen 4, The Awakening from 1991. So we are 10 years on from part 3, which took place in 1981 with Sam Neill. Now there was a 10-year lull. And during that lull, I think somebody decided we don't need any more of these in the theater. This is suitable for what? Fox Broadcasting?
Yeah, basically the American public decided we don't need any of these in the theater.
The market decided, as they say.
And then Harvey Bernhard in 1991 basically went, look, I'm going to retire soon. Why not start a money train rolling where we'll do one of these and these will become popular and we'll make TV movies out of these.
Right.
So wrote the script alongside a guy named Brian Taggart and figured he could just cash in and ride a success. It seems like, did you ever see Kids in the Hall Brain Candy?
Yes.
The head of the pharmaceutical company just rests on the fact that he made stummies.
Yes.
Like that's it. Like that's his one. This is like Harvey Bernhard was like, I did The Omen. I don't have to do anything else ever. I could just keep milking that until I die.
You know, and depending on what kind of lifestyle he wants to live, I don't see anything wrong with that. Like if he wants to shovel out a few Omen movies every once in a while and just live like a kind of a quiet life somewhere and just make his living, sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a situation like how, Robert De Niro is in anything now.
Yes.
Because, I guess he's got bills to pay, where it could be something where it's like, crap.
Yeah.
I bought too many sarcophagi. Time to make another Omen movie.
Yeah, sure. I did notice that there were going to be at least a trilogy of these planned. And it just sort of stumbled out the gate on the television and no more were made.
What's wild, though, is like the books have been going at this time, the novelizations, and the Omen 4 novelization is so much crazier than what this movie is. It's a little bit like Andrew Divoff's Wishmaster script.
Yes.
It involves nuclear Armageddon. The reporter Kate from the last one gives birth to Satan's baby out of her butt.
I mean, this is sounding great.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's insane. But it's also much like this one, a little bit like Satan's backup plan. Satan was so confident that his success, that his backup plan was like, I'm not even going to need this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make it as dumb as hell.
Yep.
And then, that one, he's like, my son's going to be born out of your butt. And then all this stuff's going to happen. And then he ends up starting nuclear Armageddon. It gets like thwarted at the last minute.
Well, I guess that's where you're going to go if you're going to do like a end of the world type of thing. And so, Jolene, if you're listening, that's the novelization that you picked up by mistake, if you remember. So, Omen 4, the novelization of the straight-to-video part 4 here. So, read that book and get back to us. Should you have the time?
It sounds pretty wild. It's apparently like really gory. Like there's a lot of deaths in it.
Okay.
So I might actually pick that up and read that.
Yeah, might as well. Gorier than the film that we're presented with, I'm sure. But, you can only get away with so much on cable TV back then. So going into production on this, much like the previous Omen, the starting director was fired and replaced. And that starting director was Dominique Otherin-Girard, and he was replaced by Jorge Montesi. And the former, I guess, was going a bit too slow. Fun fact, that director, Dominique, was also the director of Halloween 5, the Return of Michael Myers.
Revenge of Michael Myers.
Revenge of Michael Myers. I knew as soon as I said that.
He's not only back, he's mad.
I got to get that right for, future Halloween watches.
Right.
But yeah, what is it about the Omen movies where we get these auteurs in there and they think that they can go all slow and make something good?
Yeah.
Especially on a TV budget here, buddy.
Yeah. This is Harvey Bernhard picture. It's all about go, not about show.
Right.
When it comes to the Omen, that's his baby and he wants that baby done quick. I'm retiring. I'm 6 days away from retirement. We have to make this movie.
Right. So we start off in a convent with some nuns talking about the birth of a baby girl, and they're so excited to give this baby girl up for adoption to a happy couple that's coming to claim her. And I started laughing immediately because there's such a 1980s movie line early on where the father simply comments to the mother that
if there are any complications, psychological or physical, we'll handle it. Just get us. Our best friend's a doctor.
Besides, I play racquetball with a couple of good strengths.
Which just reeked of just kind of 80s masculinity right there.
That guy, the character is Gene York.
Yes.
Played by Chet Goodlooks. No, Michael Woods. But like, that's basically his job, is to be like, hi, I'm handsome.
Yeah.
Hello. And then I'm not really in this movie and I don't have much emotions.
Right.
But boy, I have a long face that is very handsome.
And it is made to run for office with that face.
It is very much a office running face.
That is a Gavin Newsom face. That's a maybe John Kerry face, you know.
Yeah. But his wife is played by Faye Grant. And that's she's playing Karen York, and Faye Grant, who I think is not too bad in this for what she has to work with.
I would agree. Yeah.
And she got some press a little bit later because her husband, not a great guy.
Yeah.
Star of Star Trek, the motion picture, and aficionado of the guy was a pervert into child porn stuff, and Seventh Heaven guy. Yeah, bad news. But she was the one who helped out him.
Totally. And not to make something like that about me, but I had just rewatched Star Trek the motion picture, and man, I love that movie. But it did make me laugh when I put two and two together, and just remembering that the end of that movie hinges on Kirk and Bones just being like, hey, why don't we let that guy bang that robot and everything will be fine. So, you know.
Honestly, I didn't think it would work. I just wanted to see what would happen.
Right. That's a very Kirk reaction.
Well, it's also very funny because he was on Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He played Dennis and Dee's like real dad, and he is like the nicest, best guy ever in the show.
Funny.
And so they keep trying to engineer things to take him down.
Right.
And it's like, well, reality did that for you.
Yes.
But enough about that awfulness. Let's focus on this awfulness.
Yep. Awful for a very different reason.
Very different reason. Not least of which is the soundtrack.
Ooh.
Good God. What is this, a Richard Band joint? Calm down.
Richard Band or even Looney Tunes towards the end.
Yes. Yeah, there was one thing that definitely sounded like that. Bum, 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 like it was ridiculous.
Yes.
But yeah, the soundtrack is always going. There's never not incidental music or just big bombastic music. You get a couple of the the Jerry Goldsmith stuff, but it's really, the rest of it is a very pale imitation.
Yeah. I did notice early on that they put Goldsmith's return front and center in the credits because it said something to the effect of part 1 and part 3. You know, like we're going to redo for part 4.
It's too bad because I still like that one from part 2, but tastes different. Just ask Frank Grant's husband.
As the couple drives away, the nun sees a group of children turn and look at her, perfectly timed to a bell chiming, and she's distraught from this for some reason. It was kind of a cute little effect starting off, but
Yeah, but it keeps the trend going of someone looking at someone else so hard, bad things happen.
Right. Yeah.
Because they like stare at her and she kind of has a breakdown and like runs away, and you get a little bit later, it's revealed that they knew the baby they gave away was cursed and evil, and they did it away, and like a spontaneous eclipse is happening.
Yep.
And it would have been interesting if that was explored a little bit more than it was, simply because that idea of, instead of this cabal working behind the scenes, which is still happening to a degree in other places, but like to get this baby to Thorn, all that, it's some people that are just like, we can't bring ourselves to hurt a baby.
Yeah.
So what if we just made it someone else's problem and hid?
Exactly.
And that kind of cowardice it might be, and dealing with that as eventually the sister Yvonne does, I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just going to slide this baby over out of the convent, and some nice couple will take care of this. Oh, yeah, and
you touched it last.
No takesies backsies on the babies.
Yeah.
Cut to the couple in their home, and they've got a bunch of family friends who come over and see the baby. Not Damien, it's Delia.
So, what made you and Jean decide on the name Delia?
It's a pretty name, isn't it?
Beautiful.
It means always visible in Greek. Besides, I had an Aunt Delia who was the first woman in our hometown to run for office.
So right out the gate here, we're setting up again, keeping with the politics angle of the Omen, which for some dumb reason I like. I'm glad it's there. That's where we're going.
Like, to get it out of the way now, much like with part 2, where they're just like, yeah, no, he was with the president. No, that didn't happen. That's gone now.
Yeah.
Whereas Omen 3 ended with Jesus coming to Earth.
Oh, right.
Like,
that's true.
No, he didn't. Shut up. Don't worry about it. Again, Satan's backup plan, just not caring. Is like, yeah, this guy, I guess, who's just like, he's a congressman that we find eventually like wins his seat due to the guy he replaced being involved in a scandal.
Yeah.
It really seems so much lower stakes than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
But I also am very curious production wise, like logistically on the ground, why this scene is done the way it is, where all the friends are just jammed on this staircase
onto the stairs. Yeah.
While they're on the second floor looking at like holding this baby. It's just very odd staging.
Yeah.
And it just was like, we can't do another setup here. We can't I just was wondering why it's like, hey crowd, everyone come up to the baby's room rather than me take a baby down to you.
Right. I could almost understand standing on like the third step, so you're elevated a little bit and everybody else is at the foot of the steps, but not have the crowd up on the steps.
Including revealing his beautiful smiling face, Don S. Davis, as Jake Madison, the Paul Roll hero. Don S. Davis from Twin Peaks as Major Briggs. Always big fans of seeing that guy.
Glad to see him.
That guy has such I couldn't tell you if he's a good or a bad actor because I'm just so excited to see him in anything.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I have a very strange parasocial relationship with Don Davis. I'd rather not get into right now, but
sure.
Love that man.
Yeah. I had to rewind it like twice just to verify that he wasn't wearing a military uniform. And I was like, oh, he is just wearing a standard blue suit. That's okay. Fine. Interesting. Because he also plays Agent Scully's father in one episode of the X-Files, and he's wearing a very similar suit that he wears in Twin Peaks. So I didn't know that was standard Don Davis wardrobes. Yeah,
when he's not being stoic and mysterious, I don't know how to deal with that guy. So when he's smiling, I'm like, oh, danger.
Ooh, yeah.
But during the baby show off scene, This again, talk about like super lower stakes where the mom like moves baby Delia and the baby scratched my face. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. That happened. Baby's got sharp nails. Yeah. They pick up the baby and hand it to the husband. Like, oh no, and get it off you and hand it to the husband. The baby stopped crying. Yeah. Yeah, babies will do that sometimes. Right. Like these supposedly ominous things are just like, have you never seen a baby?
Right. That definitely happens later on, some of her behavior. I'm just like, well, again, is she the spawn of Satan or just a child that's acting out?
A kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, not in the same ambiguous way that it was in one, where it's like, is this kid evil? Where it's no, this kid is the selling point is that this kid is the devil. Yeah, but yeah, so she gets already the baby and like the doctor, their doctor friend that's there right off the bat, like he just was rubbing me the wrong way.
Yeah, he also has a politician's face for some reason. He's like he's that friend that goes into medicine and gets rich instead of going into politics.
Madison Mason is that guy's name, the actor, and if you look at his IMDb page, his current screenshot anyway, his current picture, he looks like Roger Sterling from Mad Men, which is very fitting.
That's pretty cool.
But he blames it on a rogue safety pin in the diaper and not the baby. Although, and then later when she's like got an infection that goes nowhere, right? You know, like her veins are like bright red, and he's like, don't worry about it, and so it's not even a problem. Right. So. Why? Okay, whatever. Fine.
We cut back to the convent where the nuns are going over the fact that there's still this eclipse going on that you mentioned earlier. And as the older nun gets upset about this, she just collapses and dies. So there's a few moments of just like old people in hysterics, much like Part 2 with the crow. The younger nun runs off to the chapel just in time to see the crucifix start to teeter, fall over and go upside down. And I know it's a cheap effect, but that kind of stuff makes me laugh like with joy every time. Like it's just like the bombastic over the top religious symbolism. Yeah. Like, let's just turn this upside down.
Well, that, and they rest heavily of like, that's like the one
constantly
satanic thing we can get away with showing in this. So it's always going to be the upside down cross.
Yeah.
And it also the way, this is when I kind of gave up and went, well, we're screwed. Yeah. Because just like it just did not bode well. Already things weren't going well. But
are you saying this was an Omen?
This was the Omen. This was indeed
Omen
the
4.
Omen. This is where I had the awakening about the Omen 4.
Right.
The cross starts to fall over, like it's teetering, like it's going to spin it like against the wall, starts to rotate, and then the camera cuts away to her going no, and then it cuts back, and there it is.
Yes,
it's like you couldn't get that effect to work.
No,
is all that tells me.
Right?
Is it just like it just swings and it doesn't look like is bad, and so we had to cut and then cut back to it.
Right.
It just really like reduced all the impact from it.
Sure,
way too much, and just made it seem a lot more silly.
Well, if you want to come up with a proper way to invert a crucifix, the proper way for Satan, let me know.
Well, let me have sex with a jackal real quick, and I'll get back to you.
Right. Fair enough. And we're back. So,
Our live stream got kicked off.
right. We are seeing young Delia get baptized. And once again, this just cracked me up in the sense that the priest is carrying her towards the baptismal waters and she just starts pitching a fit and crying immediately. But what made me laugh so hard is they're just like, well, we can't baptize a crying baby, so yoink, we're out of here. So all it takes is the baby crying and they just don't even bother. Now, granted, I've never baptized a crying baby, but I just feel like you could just go ahead and dunk it and get it out of there. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know if this is a Catholicism thing, but like it's the Methodist Church growing up, went to baptisms all the time. Babies cried is the thing that happened.
Yeah.
Everyone just sort of moved because babies, I'm a baby. Now I'm wet.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Right. Yeah.
Again, this was a situation where it's like, they're trying to make it seem ominous and it's not, not nearly in the same way that, Damien's approach to the church.
It's what they wanted to go for.
Was couched in mystery. Like, is he just having a fit? What's going on? This just doesn't feel right. This just feels very silly.
This was so traumatic to the priest. He can't baptize a crying baby that after attempting that, he runs towards a crucifix in another sanctuary and I guess has a heart attack and collapses.
Yeah, This was a weird moment because like it's supposed to be that there's some powerful force at work and he's supposed to, I think the idea is that he's supposed to, in those support beams, supposed to see eyes.
Oh, I missed that.
Because it's just like, well, it's like he keeps tracking this support beam kind of thing that's behind, I don't even know how to describe the architecturalness of it. I'll use words like architecturalness, but I think it's supposed to look like as he moves forward, it looks like these supports are forming these eyes that are looking down on him. I'm not real sure. So it's like the building's mad at him. I mean, you can argue in the first one that these agents of Satan are moving around behind the scenes that have already infiltrated the church. But this makes it seem like it's in our house now. Like if the free-floating devil is already in the church. Yeah. Seems like you lost. Right. What are we even having this movie about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just taking over one church at a time.
Yeah. He's got a way to go. It's like he's like the tall man. He's got all the time in the world. Yep. So he'll just take over one church at a time.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, he dies somehow.
Gene York and Jake Madison discuss some politics, and immediately I just thought, Don Davis looks like Don Davis. He does not look like a Jake Madison. I don't know what Jake Madison sounds like to me. It's like an ad exec name or something like that. But Don Davis does not look cool enough to be a Jake Madison.
Put a lacrosse thing in his hand and maybe he's like,
like looking back on his good old days when he was truly Jake Madison. But
when I was at my most Jake Madison,
right.
They're meeting because the senator recently was caught in a scandal. Like he's being photographed by who we learn later is Michael Lerner, like filming these people in a hotel room and then falls off a ladder while taking photos of them.
Yeah.
And then it just like cuts to the scene. It's like, this guy, scandal.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have a job.
Right.
Gets rid of that senator enough for Gene York to take over.
Take the
I
job.
don't know how that works politically. Where because they just make it sound like, well, he's fired and you're in. Like he was the deputy senator.
I think so. Or like this movie, and not always in a bad way. I don't mind this so much, but like this movie does jump forward several months at a time, especially towards the end of the movie. So that for all I know, there could have been like a very short-term campaign and he's in there.
I think the biggest sin it commits in doing that, like in the montage of her like growing up and having these family moments, there's a part where the mom and daughter surprise the dad and they're both wearing these sort of matching flowery dresses. But how do they surprise him? By emerging from behind a moving bookcase door. And then they never do anything with that.
Right. It's like,
wait, what?
Where's that at?
I want more of that.
Yeah.
I would love to have a moving bookcase door, but they're just like, hey, here, this is how little it matters to us.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I was hoping it was going to come into play later.
Yeah, that's where her like little satanic altar could be or something.
Just there's a picture of Satan back there that she opens the door, winks at, and then closes it every time she does something.
Just occasionally. At a birthday party, Delia bites a Barbie doll. And at first I thought this was, just another one of those dumb things. Like we said, like, have you seen children? They bite, like they just do things like this. This is weird. But then
this is when I was back in.
Yeah.
Because the daughter and the nun, like, because the nun comes up.
Right. Yes.
The nun comes up to like, she's having second thoughts about this baby thing or something. And they totally do the Maggie baby with one eyebrow stare down. And I'm kind of chuckling about that. Then the little girl puts the Barbie doll on her face and chomps on it, throws it away, and some parents pick it up and I'm like, oh my God. And she is almost bitten the face off this Barbie doll.
Yeah, once they actually showed it, I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. Like she really like took a hunk out of that thing.
She took some powerful chomps.
Very mauled.
I love that up in the ante.
Yes.
By just chomping down a doll's face and being like, this is you.
Right. And staring at other children while doing it. Delia is playing with her mom in the next scene and ends up running into the street and very nearly gets gauge-created by a semi-truck roaring down the highway there. Out of nowhere, a big, huge, lovable dog comes and pushes her right out of the way of the truck. And the parents decide to keep the dog. And I do love their little discussion of just like...
He's been bathed. He's had his shots. All checked out. He's fine. She adores him. He adores her.
Okay.
And it was so goofy, but it worked. And just the shot of the dog pushing her out of the way was kind of goofy looking, but I really liked that shot, actually.
It was very silly, but then I couldn't also help but think, in the first one, the dog just shows up and they're like, no, you're in. Whereas this one, he's got to pull like a whole sitcom-y heist.
Yeah.
Like, all right, then she'll be in trouble and then you push her out of the way and save the day and then they'll love you.
But part of me likes that after a few movies of these dogs just sort of hanging around and like hypnotizing people. This time the dog actually does something. And I kind of dug that. Like, I don't know where this dog is coming from. Yeah. And
enough of these freeloader dogs,
right?
Says Jim.
It's got a job to do here, please. Yeah. You'll get biscuits and pets, but you do have to save the kid from an auto accident.
And of course, like any scene of them together, I'm just thinking of where evil lurks. Yeah, all I was thinking about with her and the dog is just where evil lurks. And oh God, oh boy.
Yeah.
But I knew that they were on the same side in this one.
Right. Yeah.
But if you've not seen that movie, go check that out. It's good.
Watch that movie on Shudder. Yeah. Little Delia gets bullied in school and then ends up just pounding the kid who did it. She beats him with a lunchbox and then smiles right at him at the end. And this just starts off a short series of scenes of her dealing with her first school bully, which she ends up besting.
That was great because first of all, when the kid takes her lunch and like runs away with it and stomps on it, he's stomping on that thing for a very, very long time, for a very comedic amount of time.
He means it.
Yeah. And then you can totally see now that being this sort of like girl boss. Yeah, she's taking control. Take that, bully. She's striking back because she doesn't do any psychic thing or anything like that. She just wails on him. Yeah. But then she just keeps wailing on him. And then he punches her in the face and she smiles. It's wonderful.
Great.
I wanted the rest of the movie to be like them growing up together, then getting married, and where they're just like destroying each other and loving every moment of it.
Sure.
We'll have to wait for Hellraiser for that.
Yeah.
Clive Barker wrote this movie.
Right. Yeah. She does come out of that scuffle with a busted lip that for some reason, like, I don't know if they put attention on it, but every time they give a good close up of her in the next few scenes, like she's got this scarred lip on her. Thought it kind of worked.
Yeah. Which I will say that actress, Asia Vieira, fine. I really got no beef with her.
Totally true.
She does a totally fine job.
She's got the look. She's got the she's got the chops to pull this kind of like somewhat nuanced, like I did a bad thing, but then like love me, daddy, I'm still like a perfect little angel type of thing. So she works.
Shark eyes.
Yes. Yeah. Good kid. She's got more to do than like say the kid who is Damien in the first movie.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas he just kind of like sat around and looked spooky. Like she actually has to act and like pull off a personality.
This movie does a lot of what we really liked that the first one removed, where it's like you don't see the day to day of Damien in this one. No, you're just going to see the day to day.
That's true. Yeah.
You're not going to see a scene where you have a little brother. Boom. That's in this one.
Right.
So really, this really solidifies just what Donner did with the first one. How genius that was.
Sure. The parents of the bully confront Delia's parents, and of course, they take her side, but we'll have a talk with her.
He started it by putting his gun in my hair. That very first day.
I remember. How about doing your dad a big favor and staying far away from him? That whole family's trouble.
Daddy, there won't be any trouble.
As the camera zooms in on her face. Next bit, she steals the bully's toy the next day at school and climbs up a ladder, taunting him to follow her.
You're so brave. Come get it.
She goes much higher than he does, but he freezes the ladder partway up, gets really afraid, starts crying, and pees his pants in front of everyone. So she's exacting her revenge in front of the school. The father of the bully shows up. He's all flustered.
I warned you about this. I spoke to you and your husband about this thing. But no, you're not going to pay attention. That kid is trouble. I mean it.
Confronts the parents again. So he's done this a couple of scenes in a row now. Like, you got to do something about your psycho kid. Confronts the parents, gets a long, good look at her. She looks at him while she's sitting in the car waiting for her parents to show back up. He drives off in a huff, and for some reason, this is the funny thing about the blocking of this death scene. I couldn't quite tell if he was just driving slowly and drove right into the truck, or if the truck backed up. Who acted on who in this? I think it's funnier if he drives right into it.
Yes, I think he drove right into it.
Yeah, they're trying to call back the David Warner glass pane scene, complete with multiple camera angles on this decapitation. Just doesn't quite have the Warner magic in this one.
See, whereas to me, this is pure cinema. This is just uncut Kino directly into my eyes. Because they blew it already by not having the dad get so pissed off that he wets himself.
Oh,
that would have been the funniest possible reaction. Him just like yelling and walking away and just wetting himself. But instead, yeah, he goes to the car, sees her, and like gets freaked out, hypnotized or something, goes to his car and drives into this truck that's got its flatbed is down, like it's loading bed, and it decapitates him. And it doesn't just decapitate him. You get all these camera angles of it crashing through. It knocks that off. It cuts to like the back seat where there's this like all these toys and stuff.
Right.
A ball falls out. Then it cuts to the ball rolling on the pavement, and it's got a clown head on it.
Okay, yes.
Beautiful.
That was
beautiful.
Right. I forgot about the clown head. That was great. Yeah.
That was just, you madman, you did it. It made me so happy. He just like forgets how to drive.
Right.
And just plows into this thing.
It's that approach.
Which you escalated from made a guy wet himself to murder.
Yeah.
Like that was rather, I thought it was all going to be this sort of like low level trickery building up to that. No.
Yeah.
Just jump right to it.
Bad party trick, decapitation. Where there's no messing around.
But the ball just made me that just sold it.
Solid. Next up, we've got little Delia at a horse riding lesson, and all the other kids are excited to jump on a horse, and they do it just fine. But as soon as she gets up there, her starts to get freaked out by her presence. She finally does get on his back, but it bucks her off, and she falls to the ground in a great shot of a very short stunt person just falling flat face on the ground, which made me giggle a little bit. But I did think about the fact that, and I don't know what the consistencies are with Satan's powers or anything, but there was a long scene of Sam Neill riding around on a horse in the last movie. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it takes a while to get your powers up to the point where you can kind of like start taking control of animals or make them your familiars or whatever. But a little different.
I think it's got to be, it's a refinement. I think she's just got the raw vibes currently.
Yeah.
Which, they've already mentioned how she doesn't have any friends and they're all sitting away from her. But this was the first scene, and there's several of these where I'm like, where are they? What is this? What is this event where it's a kid at horse camp, but you're all watching your kids get on a horse for the first time, and you're like in the stands watching this?
It's what rich people do, maybe.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. Any cowboys or horse girls or NB equestrians out there want to chime in if this is a normal thing?
Yeah.
No idea. Seems strange to me.
Doctors start looking into her, realize that Delia has started menstruating, and that's why the horse bucked her off. Now, she's 8 years old here. So she has had her first period, evidently. And I do love that he literally just says,
Still don't understand what happened, why that horse bolted. Yeah, well, that happens sometimes, Gene, especially when a child is becoming a woman.
in this very kind of medieval sort of way.
The mom, I like Karen York's reaction here of just like, how dare you even suggest that?
I mean,
that my daughter is menstruating at age 8. Just
I would be shocked too. You want to take another look at that, Doc?
It just seemed like a genuine reaction, and I was excited to see someone act in this movie.
Right. Joe, or Josephine, the new nanny, arrives to meet Delia, who is immediately put off by Joe's healing crystal necklace. And this did make me laugh, because at first I was just like, Delia, don't want any of that hippie new age shit in her house at all.
Hey, there's nothing strange about metaphysics and New Thought. It's very positive.
Sure. I mean, I used to make fun of this stuff a lot more, and then I realized over the last few years I've got a couple crystals in my room for, good vibes and that kind of stuff. But,
whatever. I just thought like this change to this being the Force fighting the devil is hilarious.
I do think that's funny. The Catholic Church is like, we've been at this for thousands of years. Let's call in some new thought.
People kind of, it's the go-go 90s. People falling out of favor with the Catholic Church. Like people don't care as much. It's not as popular. Late 90s, it enters the spotlight in a major way.
Yeah.
But at
Spotlight.
this point, through Spotlight. But at this point, no, not so much.
Yeah.
So they moved away from the Catholic Church to this like hippie new wave stuff as a way to get it back into the church.
Yes.
As we'll get into later. But it's like so many things in this movie, needlessly convoluted. But in this case, the whole psychic element of this is hilarious.
Yes.
And I love it so much.
Culminating just a few scenes from now, really. Joe eventually notices that all the crystals that are in another chest of drawers have turned black. I'm kind of into the idea that someone who is not satanic is the nanny, like she's got a force for good.
Yeah.
This time, instead of like somebody being sent by Satan or whoever. But the other thing is like, I do love that we didn't see those crystals in their normal, like nascent form earlier. It's just like a whole drawer full of black crystals. Done. And we don't get the impression that her mom really cares about crystals or anything like that either. They're just there.
I mean, there's some interest because there's a scene of Joe and her mom chatting about it. Delia is playing. The family has like a merry-go-round in their backyard.
Yeah.
Like not with the horses, but like when you find like at a park.
Yeah.
It must be nice to be rich.
I know.
I ain't got one of those. Join our Patreon. Help me buy. But she comes in and Karen and Joe are looking at a book Joe has about crystals, about light, the power of crystals. And Delia's like,
The Book of Light.
It's all about healing and crystals.
And stupid junk. I'm going to have to play.
this is bullshit. This is stupid. And I just like that her reaction is the same as like a dad's.
Oh yeah.
Like, just like
most people.
Bambi nonsense.
Right.
Yeah. But that's supposed to be like evil.
You could just call her a skeptic. She's just asking questions.
Yeah. She doesn't have a gold pin that says skeptic.
Right.
We don't know. So yeah, she gets pissed and finds that all the other healing crystals she has turned black. So she does the smart thing, finds the nearest guy with a kerchief.
Yes.
With a neckerchief.
Yeah.
And that is her friend Noah.
When you can't find David Warner, you go to Noah, I guess.
You go to the nearest neckerchief man and ask him for help.
And with a neckerchief, since it's now the 90s and not the cool ass like late 60s, early 70s, he's just a hippie in a pickup truck.
Yeah, it's changed entirely.
How the neckerchief has fallen. Yes,
it's terrible.
We start with Warner, we end with Noah in his truck.
Imagine like a sensitive Billy Ray Cyrus. That is Noah.
Oh, I will. Okay. The extent of his knowledge is basically just her aura is murky and it's just bad vibes. I mean, I guess you go to a guy in a pickup with a neckerchief and that's the answer you get. I should not have been surprised at his lack of experience in this matter.
I was more shocked that it didn't start every sentence with, "Hey, brother."
Yeah, right.
But yeah, and then so they have a conversation because she's just like, she comes out, Delia comes out as they're talking in his truck for some reason.
You feel it too? Tightening in the throat?
Oh, yeah.
Ever since I got here.
Energy's real low. Look at my palms.
So his hands are sweaty.
Yeah.
It's a very dumb effect. Like he's just got wet hands.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like something's going on. It's like, we need to have her on my turf.
Right. Yes.
Just that phrasing is hilarious. He's like, bring her to the fair. Apparently there's a psychic fair.
Yes.
Which, yes. Joe gets out of the car and Noah just goes rocketing, backing out the car, almost hitting Karen as she's pulling in. His response is very much, I think, like the emotional response to this movie, which is just slack-jawed confusion and sorrow.
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm sorry.
And she poses the question, was he drunk? And like, I don't know, maybe,
Yeah. Well, she's like, no, Delia, you saw him too. He was very sick. He couldn't breathe and his hands were all sweaty. So naturally, we let him drive a car.
Right.
Like, it's just the worst response.
John, he needed to get home fast. How else was he supposed to get home fast?
You want him to die on the road or
Right.
at home?
There's a brief shot of Joe taking a shower, and she notices that there's a inverted cross on the mirror drawn into the condensation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of thing I would have done when I was like 11 years old, thinking I was like evil or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't tilt up to see the Slayer logo above
exactly.
it. But it's a neat idea. The effect was a little, the execution wasn't great because like it's supposed to be like she's getting soap and she sees herself in the mirror fogs up, but there's still, you can see her reflected in the drawn upside down cross. It just was so like close and in, it didn't really have the effect it could have.
Sure.
And this is where then she has the idea. She wants to connect more with the kid.
Yeah.
So she asks Karen, can I just have a day with her? Her and me go out and party, and I want to take her to a psychic fair.
Right.
And Karen's, of course, yeah, and that's when she drops the line.
There's nothing strange about metaphysics and new thought. It's very positive.
Which is a thing a person in a cult says.
Right.
Like, that is, that's like the worst response you could have.
Yeah, yeah. But then your mind has changed once you see this this psychic fair, which
this amazing psychic fair.
It's kind of a Ren fair type of deal. I don't know. And then of course I couldn't help but think of like, is this the type of thing that a low budget production just finds and writes into the script? And it's just like, oh, there's this fair here all the time. Like this is production value. We can just go film here. Save us in the budget.
Some people seemed like they were, maybe casting roles. Other people just seemed like they were there.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Like the Hank Hill guy, it starts on.
For
it's getting whatever done on him.
Yes.
But then interesting note here is that every time as they're showing you around this psychic fair with like the beginning and the ending of it, everyone featured visiting these psychics are women. Every single person. And so I'm like, because it makes the point to like cut to who's listening.
Sure. Okay.
What are you trying to say here, Dominique? Yeah. What are you getting at?
Yeah.
But that was making me laugh because I like there's one woman seeing like a psychic with a crystal ball. She's like, I see a face, and it just cuts to this woman nodding like, yep. I have a face.
That's a face. It's mine.
Yeah. But yeah, it is very like low, but it looks like I can't really make the comparison that anyone would get here, but Portland Saturday Market or something like that. It's just a bunch of stalls with people in it. It's very, very low budget.
The kind that you walk past and you hope not to make eye contact with because then you'll get drawn in and feel guilty. Like you got to buy some salsa.
I'm going to have to buy more fucking honey candles.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, salsa. Absolutely.
I know that's specific because I've done that.
But, I think I know the guy.
Yeah, right. Carrot salsa. What was I thinking? So everywhere Delia walks around are these hippie psychics, and everybody just starts having a bad case of, bad vibes and freakouts.
Yeah.
As soon as she gets close, she gets her aura photograph done. And of course it comes out muddy and sepia and black. And
well, just a terrible plan because they're walking by and Delia's like, well, what is this? These guys, taking this spirit photography, and she's like, let's go to a picture taking real quick, and just like grabs her and shoves her in front of the camera. There's no cajoling. There's no like, hey, come on, it'll be fun. It's just immediately this assault of photography.
Right.
And of course the kid's not into it.
Yeah.
So new age people, not any better than goofy priests from part 3.
And, they look at her photo, and I know I don't know anything about aura photography or auras or anything like that, but like there's part of me that just like resents this fact that it has to be like a glowing, pretty color for you to be positive and happy or something. I'm a guy that wears a lot of black and gray and sometimes white, and like I'm a pretty happy person. So take that, auras,
Meanwhile, Wavy Gravy took his own life, I'm assuming.
There you go.
What happened to that guy. Maybe he's fine.
But yeah, because she has black and sepia tones all over her aura, she must be satanic.
Well, that drove me nuts because like he shows the picture to a couple of psychic friends.
Now, these colors are lack of sepia and black. This is the aura of a Borgia, not a little girl.
We've moved away from like the army of God.
Yeah.
To a guy with a Camaro haircut who knows what colors are. Right. Like that's what she's up against in this. Just no stakes in any of this.
Right.
It sucks.
Satan.
For being like good and evil. It's like, this is who is going to beat you? Come on.
Yeah, I'll take the army of monks in part 2 that just did a lot of falling down over these people. And at this point I'm like, how is Satan not going to win here?
Yeah, well,
if you can't take out the Portland Saturday Market, then you don't deserve the world.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, Satan does pretty easily.
It goes on this string of shots of everywhere she starts walking past, every open flame gets wind blown on it, almost like, no, not going to suggest that she farted on the thing. every open flame that she walks by gets more inflamed, and every tent starts gradually catching on fire, and she walks away smiling, much like that meme of the little girl looking over her shoulder smiling at the fire.
Yeah, because I mean, not all of them, like some of them are mysterious. Others are like the guy juggling fire accidentally drops one or something happens.
Yeah.
So you get less of an impression of like a malevolent force at work and more that she's just kind of Frank Drebin'd her way through this fair and everything is on fire now. But whatever, it worked. And what I like is like the old school, like it's clearly just a thing on fire in front of the lens.
Oh, for sure.
And people reacting behind it. I mean, there's legitimate like stuff burning down and people in front of it, but there's a lot of shots of just that.
Yeah.
And that just, I'm not knocking the movie for that. That kind of like old filmmaking. That's
a 1950s, 60s type of shtick. Don Davis's wife talks to Karen, the mom, and they discuss Delia's behavior.
Lying? All kinds of accusations about dual behavior. Delia behaves differently in front of other people than she does in front of us.
Well, you're still not answering my question. What does any of this have to do with the fire?
What I'm trying to say is, Joe says that Delia is a very powerful personality.
Like Carrie setting fire to the prom. Powerful.
Yeah, here's a question. Where are they?
At first, I thought it was a movie theater, and then I realized it must have been like something like OMSI, like a children's museum or something.
That's my guess, yeah, because it's like it seemed like they're in front of a movie theater, and they walk down this spiral staircase. Like all the aesthetics are very like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And Delia is wearing an awesome sweater.
Yes.
A lot of great sweaters in this movie. I don't know what they say about the character, but they're just great sweaters.
Yeah.
And then they go down this stairway and they're still talking, and then it cuts and Delia's like playing with some kind of like bubble making thing.
It looked like
no indication, no establishing shot.
Right.
They're at this, this place that everyone knows.
This place where kids can learn about science or something.
Go see a movie and make bubbles.
I mean, that sounds fun.
They're everywhere.
What are you doing this Saturday?
Yeah, maybe it was a mall. I don't know.
Delia overhears conversation and makes sure to say,
You talking about Daddy? My daddy's going to be president.
and that's somehow ominous. But I guess we're in an Omen movie, so it's ominous.
Again, like stuff a kid would just say, like, yeah, my dad could beat up your dad. Well, my dad's going to be the president.
Yeah. Joe sits with Delia trying to meditate and trying to be kind of a counselor to her. Delia calls the bully a sissy, which kind of made me laugh for some stupid reason because I'm also 9 years old. When asked about the inverted cross, she says that her father taught her what that means, and then ends up spitting in Joe's face out of nowhere. Wind starts to blow all around the inside of the house, and we start hearing the dog, who is named Ryder, by the way, start barking. Joe gets chased into a room, and Ryder comes out of nowhere, jumps on her, shoves her out the window, and she falls onto the little merry-go-round.
Yeah, I thought the dog was going to, like, the force of the dog jumping at her was going to knock both of them out the window. No, the dog jump kicked her.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Right. Yeah. The dog did not go out the window.
No, no. And of course, Joe lands right on the merry-go-round, so can spin around. And what could be a creepy and disturbing scene, but the soundtrack just will not let up. And I mean, and I don't know if some of that is like, well, we have to tamp this down as much as possible because it's going to be on TV.
Oh, that could be.
So if we have this ridiculous music that will, don't know, but it's very silly.
I didn't think of that, but that could be, yeah. And she spins around on the merry-go-round as I think Karen just happens to be sitting down there.
Yeah, she was like out there looking at something with a landscape or something and turns and sees it happen and collapses. Yeah. And so she has to go to the doctor, which I really like that shot when they cut to, she's the doctor, it's this close-up of her eyes, but she's like upside down. It was just a nice looking shot.
Dr. Friend tells the dad that she might actually be pregnant now. When, again, before, didn't think that she could get pregnant. That's why they adopted Delia. And over the next couple of scenes, the mom is starting to feel convinced that Delia doesn't want her to have the baby. So she's now starting to finally come around that there might be something amiss with Delia.
Yeah, and I think that was a missed opportunity in this movie, is that because you're spending more time with Delia and the mom, there's so much fertile ground for your kids growing up and your relationship is changing and all that kind of stuff. And the relationship between mothers and daughters, they try to just sort of do the thing from the first one again, where it's like, well, I don't feel like I'm a responsible enough parent for this kid or something. Like at first, like she feels weird about it. Then she's immediately convinced that Delia is the bad seed and is the problem here. And particularly because they're at one point where they're like about to leave somewhere and Delia like lays on the merry-go-round in a similar fashion to Joe dying.
That was kind of cool. Yeah.
Which is just very like, this is you. Yeah. and then she's talking to her husband about having the baby and Delia's watching them through the banister. Again, I guess every odd numbered Star Trek? No, every even numbered Star Trek movie is good.
Right.
Every even numbered Omen movie features a woman's robe that I would actually like to have myself. She's wearing this nice green robe that I'm like, that looks comfortable and I would like to have. Do they make that for dudes? Please?
Yeah, could be.
I don't care. I'll still wear it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know my hat. It does not matter. Yeah, and so she's upset about it. So she goes to see a priest to talk to him about something in the Crystal's book.
That was my favorite part. Like, hey, priest, what do you think about this Crystal New Age book that also has a Bible verse in it?
Yeah.
I guess in the New Age scene, you can just kind of crib whatever you want, and make it sound good and then make stuff up. I don't know. But
it's just he's open to it. He's like, hey, whatever gets butts and seats.
That's true.
I'm happy to see it.
The church has to embrace crystals at this point. It's the early 90s and attendance is down. So
what I love is the priest starts giving her, sort of religious advice and then becomes Father Neil Breen.
So you're saying we're all in league with the devil?
Most of us unknowingly, of course, but there are others.
Well, what do you mean? What others?
Well, leaders who plunder the treasuries of their poor countries, trashing their own people, driving them into famine, hopelessness, disease. Men who pave over forests to provide the very air we breathe. These are the true apostates. These are the ones who are laying out the red carpet for the Antichrist.
Yes. And starts talking about how the real evil is the corporations stealing and the governments. And whatever. But I'm just thinking about the end of Fateful Findings.
My releasing these files today will not endanger any innocent persons, but they will identify governments and corporations that have committed fraudulent and criminal activities against mankind.
Listeners, if you have not watched Fateful Findings, please pause this podcast, track down Fateful Findings and watch it. Don't be put off by the first 10 minutes. Just enjoy the rest of it. And
just understand that's going to be the next 90.
Yes. My goodness. Watch a Neil Breen film.
But yeah, it's like he's trying to make a political message, but it's just, it's real weak.
Yeah. And, they discuss Revelations because that's the best book in the Bible and it has all the apocalyptic and scary stuff. They talk about how, the Antichrist will come and he's all in.
I was more of a Deuteronomy guy.
Oh, really? Okay.
I used to, when I was in high school, I was still going to church. I wasn't really into it, but I would just read the book of Deuteronomy because that was the rules chapter. And there were some funny stuff in there. Like if your balls are smashed, you're not going to heaven. Sorry.
Get hit by a football in the groin and you can't make it to heaven.
Sorry, George C. Scott. You're not going to heaven.
Right. What constitutes smashed?
It's
a gray
is it
area.
Smushed or is it good?
Right. You don't want your balls gushed so you can't go to heaven. Some evangelicals come to the door to their home and start handing out a pamphlet, and this cracked me up because the little girl just takes the pamphlet and rips it in half. I mean, half of her actions are seriously what I thought was funny when I was 13 or 14.
Oh, absolutely.
As far as like religious stuff goes. And I was like, what if I rip up a religious pamphlet in front of a Jehovah's Witness or something like that? I mean,
it's basically the problem child.
I mean, I definitely thought a problem child while watching this. Yeah. But yeah, just her like stupid reaction to everything remotely religious is kind of the reaction that I had when I was 13 or so. And it's so goofy.
Yeah, it's less like this hurts me and I'm afraid of it. More just like, I don't follow your rules, man.
Exactly. And that was my attitude for sure. Karen goes to see another nun, and they discuss whether or not a child could just be born evil.
The nun should be like, yeah, have you not heard of Catholicism? That's
Yeah.
kind of our whole deal.
We're born sinners, right? And we must atone for the rest of our lives. So maybe that nun's halfway out. It's the 90s as well. So
yeah. It's like, hey, I don't care anymore. Let me show you these cool crystals I found.
Right. Mom is doing yoga and she can't get up because she's very pregnant. And Delia walks down the stairs and stares at her ominously. And that's kind of my beatnik poem right there. You know, walks down the stairs and stares at her ominously.
Nice.
It's played like she's scared of her daughter, but she can't really get up.
Yeah, and I like that because she is sort of afraid, but then when the dad comes in, she's like, "Oh, we're just having fun."
Right, yeah.
You know? And I think Faye Grant did a decent job with that, like selling these little moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that where she's still afraid to admit that she might be afraid of this kid. And I wish they would have like leaned into that a bit more, because that doesn't take a lot of sets or fire. You can just have emotional moments.
Yeah.
But that's not what Harvey Bernhard wants. He wants death and destruction.
On a cable budget, please.
Yeah.
Mom goes to a PI. His name is Earl Knight. He's the guy who was taking the photos of the congressman earlier. And she wants him to find Delia's biological parents. And so she starts laying out all the evil shit that Delia's been doing. And he's understandably just like, whoa, slow down. Like, I don't know if this is in my purview, actually, all this Satan stuff. But, you know, I will do what I can to find the parents. He turns to his computer, and did you see what he types in as his password?
No.
Marlowe.
Oh, jeez. Well, he makes a Perry Mason reference as well, but this is Michael Lerner, probably most famous for his role in Barton Fink.
Yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah, great in Ray Liotta's No Escape. Great film that he's great in. But yeah, super excited, and like, he was a breath of fresh air in this movie.
Yes.
Because like just any scene he's in, there's not necessarily a ton to do, but he's just very fun to watch.
He's fun to watch. And like, you kind of need that, like entering the third act of this kind of slog of a movie at this point. And so, yeah, you're right. Breath of fresh air. He immediately goes to question some nuns. Two clowns show up and they are providing a diversion while he takes a picture of some files in the nun's office. And this did make me laugh because this just seemed like some sort of like more comedy PI, like Big Lebowski kind of thing, you know, like I've got a cadre of clowns that I can call on to cause a diversion.
Yeah. He's meeting with the nun, and the nun won't show him stuff, and then these did we order some clowns? What? And then these two wacky clowns are at the door.
I like
and just the fact that he looks at them and one turns and like gives them the thumbs up sign, like, we're a distraction. I hope no one notices me obviously doing that. And he's like, good job, buddy.
Yeah.
It was so dumb.
It's so dumb, but I liked it.
I'm also like, I was just so excited that it was that dumb.
Yes.
So I was like, why not?
Yeah.
Like, this thing sucks so much. Why not just be that dumb?
Right. Yeah. Knight starts gathering info at a bar, and he finds out that the nun he is looking for became a sex worker who founded religion again and went to found her own cult in North Carolina. This is Sister Yvonne. She now goes as Felicity.
Then, acting on this information, the detective goes to visit her pimp at like...
Yes.
I don't know, some like 4-H stable where his prostitutes are. They're just like walking down a line. You just see like these butts and legs as they're perusing the prostitutes, and he's getting the information. And then the other guy's like, "Oh yeah, she started her own religion, and now she makes more money than I do."
Yeah.
And then the detective's like, "Hey, thanks," and goes to give him $50. He's like, "No, I am but a humble pimp. You think I'm in this just for money?"
Yeah.
What a weird little character choice. But the guy's like, "Oh, okay, fine, I'll take money,
if you
I
insist."
guess." But discovers that she's got a revival going, and she has given herself Romero from Escape from New York hair, or Laurie Anderson, whatever you want to call it, very close cropped hair, and she's a snake handler. Amazing stuff here, because he watches her do her whole act.
Yep.
The snakes can't hurt me, and she'll pray for you. And there's just a shot of one guy where she's like blessing him. And he might be my favorite actor in the whole thing. Like, he's not doing much, but his face just tells a whole story about like how he is at his wit's end, and he did not think he'd be here, but This is his last-ditch effort.
Just needed this because I always notice bit part players from the X-Files. This is Yvonne is played by a woman named Megan Leach, who played Fox Mulder's sister, Samantha, who is a reoccurring character throughout the show. Was she kidnapped? Was she abducted by aliens? Was she abducted by the cigarette smoking man? Was she given over by the cigarette smoking man? We never know, because that show's so convoluted and amazing, but I recognized her face right away. So more X-Files people.
What the detective does here, just a wild move. She is standing in an aquarium of snakes, basically. It goes up to her like calves, picking up these snakes and holding them and showing people God's love through snake handling. And he just goes up and shows her a picture of the devil. Shows a picture of Delia. And she, of course, loses control of the snakes and it starts biting her. Bites him, bites a whole bunch of people. You couldn't have waited? Mm-hmm. Where was she going to go?
Yeah. I did like in this moment, though, that as soon as the PI got bit on the hand, I believe, he knew immediately to start sucking the poison out because he's like a street smart type of guy. You know, I was just tiny touch, but for some reason I like that.
I also liked the fake prosthetic foot that the snake kept biting. It wasn't like bad necessarily, but it was just very funny to just see it just this foot that's just there and the snake's biting it. It doesn't move right away. Yeah. So it cuts to he is now in the hospital getting treated, and this doctor who's like Ed Begley Senior kind of has like Terrell glasses. But he's like, oh, how's Felicity doing? And he's like, bad.
Right.
And then like takes her over to see him.
Totally.
See her. And she is like all messed up. Yep. Her face is just bloated with poison and she is rapidly dying.
Yeah. At this point, I think her window pops open and casts a shadow in the form of an upside down cross. And it's almost like it implies that kills her, even though the snake bites killed her. Like, I don't know what they were really going for right there.
I'm not too sure. She imparts some information about, him, this little girl being the devil. And then when he leaves, the window blows open. But I couldn't tell if she was laughing at first.
Yeah.
If it was something where like, ha ha ha, no, I'm in on it. And then she dies. So don't know.
Something.
But it seemed like the upside down cross, which is like, this is like the 5th time we've seen it now. So it's really not that impactful. It's unclear whether it was the cross or the snake bite that killed her, but I'm gonna put money on snake bites.
Snake bites, yeah. Meanwhile, back to the ranch, Karen has had the baby, and the little brother is born, and all of a sudden there's a new nanny, and it looks like she's played by Fairuza Balk lookalike.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this one's gonna be evil. We know right away here.
Yeah, it's just a dead giveaway.
Yeah. Dad states to her that if there's any behavior considered odd, he's to know, but the wife is not. So Knight, the PI, goes out to a trailer. I guess it's Felicity's trailer. Finds a scrapbook that Felicity has been keeping about Delia. He looks outside and sees a fence that is toppled over upside down and is now in the shape of an inverted cross. We haven't seen that enough.
No one would have noticed that.
No.
That is not a prominent thing. It's just there.
Yeah.
If it was something where it's like he's starting to see it everywhere, maybe, but it just makes it seem like, no, this is the thing. And it's like, I'm not buying this.
Yeah. I used to look for that kind of thing everywhere anyway, but just to be like a dork and just like turn around and like think I'm seeing upside down crosses. But now it's just like I'm kind of over seeing upside down crosses everywhere.
Right,
It's just,
again, it didn't pan up to see the Slayer logo.
Yeah, it's boring now. Knight is quietly walking around. It's Christmas Eve. I think he sees like a nativity scene in a window, and it transfers to being a baby Jesus that is all ghoulish looking. And I think Joseph, I couldn't remember his name. Joseph looks very ghoulish as well. And
they just like swapped out the nativity with like 40K minis. And I don't know.
Which tribe or which organization of 40K?
I mean, these looked more like the lack from Necromunda, rather than like an actual 40K or like the Astartes. Just some gray weirdos.
Well, let me call up my lifeline and see if we can get some more specific knowledge on this real quick.
Hey, Jim. Thanks so much for calling. This is Stuart Wellington, the resident lore master of the Flophouse podcast. Yeah, looking at that child, I mean, clearly it looks like a spawn of House Talak of Necromunda. Though, honestly, based on the reverence that baby is clearly being held in, I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually more of a reference to Horus Lupercal, the War Master, Primarch of the Luna Wolves, nay, Sons of Horus, nay, Black Legion, the arch heretic who stood up against the Emperor and almost overthrew the galaxy before being laid low by his father. So if you were to ask me, I believe that baby looks most like Horus Lupercal, the Primarch. Okay, so see you later.
I mean, that's basically what I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. I mean,
but he is trapped where he's at because like the weather is bad enough that he can't get a flight out. And so he's starting to freak out for his life. And so he mails his findings and the diary to Karen. But then he's out wandering around after doing that. He mails it next to a store called the Art Factory.
Yes.
Which I'm sorry, you're just asking to be called the Fart Factory. Like, that's just a bad. I would graffiti that shop myself if I knew where it was.
And over and over as they start to clean it up,
you would
just
sorry.
like, yeah. And,
it's the Fart Factory.
And you probably have to do it at night so you're silent but deadly, and to get in there. You have to one cheek sneak around to get that done. Anyway, man, I hope we get all those famous people that we want to come on to this podcast.
Well, yeah, it's a shirt now.
Yeah. What I do love about this scene, though, is he sees a chorus of kids singing Christmas carols, but then he looks up again and it looks like they're all in soiled white robes, leather collars, and it looks like just the cheesiest like little goth teenage chorus group for Christmas. And that made me laugh as well.
Yeah. And like, so he basically at this point is getting murdered by the soundtrack to the movie.
Right.
Because the Damien theme starts up and they're singing along to it. They look, at first it's like, what is this, Ministry? But it's in Canada, so I guess maybe it'd be Frontline Assembly.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, like just like Look Tough, and one of them is singing like, guess what? Turns the cross upside down.
Yes,
Woo.
yes.
But he's like holding his chest. It's like, oh no, this is terrible, and I agree with you. But he is able to stumble away from them in front of this construction site. He has seen in a window before and gazed for a while at a toy crane. In this very like,
oh right,
boy, this is going to come into play later.
Yeah,
and sure enough, he's by this construction site. It's not the funniest death because I still think the clown ball one is the funniest. But second, somehow the wrecking ball crane starts activating and it swings towards him and it keeps cutting to his face. And I had read that this initially was supposed to be slow motion and it just didn't work out, or maybe they didn't like change the speed of the film or something.
Sure.
But it's just Michael Lerner standing there slack jawed again, just confused sorrow.
Yeah.
Just like, oh no.
Yeah.
And you can see the breath coming out of his mouth and it's just going at regular speed.
Right.
But I also don't know how being in slow motion and being slack jawed and keeping that same facial expression would work better in slow motion.
Sure.
But the thing eventually like swings at him, swings at him, swings at it, finally like breaks through the wall of the construction site and takes him out. And it's obviously hitting a dummy, but it's very funny and I love it.
It's great. Yeah. You see the wrecking ball set up and you're like, oh, okay, this will be a good one. And my brain goes through like, is this going to be splattery? Is it just going to hit hard? That kind of thing. But
there was a hook on the bottom as well. So you weren't sure if that was going to get him.
Exactly. But no, it just sort of smashes him. And because it's so lo-fi, it's definitely more funny than it is gruesome.
Yes. Yeah.
But the funny thing is, just as he gets slammed into it, as an editor, I'm sure you will appreciate the next shot in this film.
Absolutely.
Just an egg falling on the floor and splatting on the kitchen floor. Pretty great.
Always love that. Yeah, like that. It's been done all over the place, but I always think of Coppola's Dracula because like there's so many smash cuts like that where it's just like, yeah, like they're chopping off someone's head and then like a big thing of meat gets plopped on a table.
Yeah,
just love that stuff. Go watch that. Once you're done watching Fateful Findings, go watch Dracula. Great stuff. But yeah, I'll always love that kind of goofy smash cut kind of, or, match cut kind of thing. Yeah, because she's just like looking at it like she got eggs out of the fridge just to watch this happen and then puts it back in as her mom calls.
Yeah. The baby boy is ready for a bottle. His name is Alexander, and Delia is there to criticize her for not breastfeeding. So right away, she's just such a little bitch, to her mom about this kind of stuff. Yeah. I shouldn't discuss what the psychology is of a mom who can't breastfeed because I am not qualified for that shit. So we'll
but that would be interesting.
Yes,
that
exactly.
Would be something. Because you have this baby that you're like, well, now it's my baby, but like I can't connect to it, and I have this other child I don't like. But that would be like emotions and subtext, and that's not what the Omen series really are about. Particularly this one is not about that at all.
Sure. This
is about wetting your pants and getting crushed.
Mom is basically paranoid every time Delia gets close. She ends up. I just wrote. She calls South Carolina on her phone because everybody's got a state's phone number if they need to reach someone. Finds out.
Hello, South Carolina.
Right.
Can I help you?
Finds out that the PI is dead, and so is Felicity. So I think she gets like that info out by saying like, "I'm his sister."
Oh, I'm so sorry. Your brother died in a freak accident.
What?
I couldn't believe it. We had 2 strange deaths in one day. Your brother at the construction site, and then a preacher woman of snake bites. Oh, it was a bad day.
And this other person died too. I know you're not related, but I started gossiping. I can't stop.
Well,
and, yeah.
Mom and Dad starts talking about putting Delia in an international school and says for some reason Rome would be nice.
Yeah,
and
Dad's
I don't know
got political ambitions when it takes the kid to Rome.
Yeah. Where all those monks live.
Because the whole thing is like, aren't you a congressman? You're trying to be president. I don't know if he's trying to do the whole ambassadorship thing again.
That's how you got to the presidency in the 80s and 90s, I guess.
So that immediately, like, she hears Rome.
Yeah.
And her anti-Italian racism kicks in. Right. Her inner H.P. Lovecraft fires up. And is like, Mamma Mia. Right. And so goes running to the priest.
She does a lot of that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I am in this era of everybody thinking they're an expert online about everything. I do commend her for running to talk to people who are smarter than her and gathering information. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, she's like, wasn't there something about like the Fourth Kingdom?
And that's supposed to be in Rome, and then asks if the Antichrist has to be male. Like, she's really going off the deep end on like kind of grasping for straws, even though she's correct. But like the way she gets there is pretty funny.
But I also like the priest explanation.
Father, the Antichrist is always spoken of as a he.
Well, the Bible didn't mean to be sexist.
Yeah, I did like that. Yeah.
Whoops. Yeah. It was the style at the time. The God doesn't have control over those kind of things.
Right.
But,
it's not our fault.
Yeah, but she puts together that mankind could also mean womankind, and that being from Rome, the being the Fourth Kingdom where the Antichrist is supposed to be from, does not necessarily mean that it was born there. Mm-hmm. It could mean educated, which I mean, we're taking the same leaps that the first one did, where it's like, oh, this roiling sea, that means politics. Yeah, so
right.
Fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But, just that, like, the Bible didn't mean to be sexist. Just the bit about how when a woman is menstruating, she should be like in another village and set fire to. The Bible didn't mean that.
Well, it's either that or horses are going to start going crazy. You can't have that.
Yeah, there were a lot of stuff in Deuteronomy about like if your wife is menstruating, just watch out, buddy.
Right. She goes to see the doctor friend again, and he declares that she has a case of the icks. The scientifically sound case of the icks.
Yes. Case of the icks. Yep.
I'm going to just kind of assume that that's the case anyway. Anytime I don't feel so hot about anything, it's the case of the icks from now on.
You've got the ick.
Yeah. She just straight up stabs him in the hand with a scalpel. And then he starts declaring that he's been in on it from the beginning. He knows about Damien Thorne, who this is the first time Damien has been mentioned in the film. Alexander is Delia's twin, who was put inside the mom. The doctor is a doctor of Satan, is just what I'm calling him. And this has all been planned. Wait. What did I say? Alexander is Delia's twin. Let's back up.
Yeah.
Can you explain this?
Please do. Sure.
Yeah.
What is this fetus papyraceus? What is it?
It's a certain kind of it's papyrus font fetus. I forget what they call it,
right.
But it's the idea that a fetus inside the fetus is a secret other fetus
Awesome.
They will sometimes call it an invisible twin because it normally gets absorbed.
Yep.
But somehow Delia was born with the fetus inside of her that could just hang out for 7 years until it was, or 5 years or whatever, until it was taken out after she fell off the horse and implanted into her mom, which seems like there would be kind of some serious surgery.
Yeah.
But I guess not. Because they didn't do that on Delia. Satan's like George Lucas making the original or the prequels here, where it's just like everyone was afraid to tell Satan no.
Yeah.
Because he's like, all right, great idea for the, again, just does not care about his backup plan. But like, so I'll just put my fetus, the secret, like real boy fetus inside this dumb old girl fetus.
Yep.
And then whammo, just have the boy, just have a boy.
Yeah.
Because it's also like at that point, it sucks that you like that the whole twist of like it's a girl this time doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all.
You just like, well, then she's just a fucking case for the real Satan. She's not evil. She's just, I mean, she could be, but it doesn't matter because she's just got the real bad guy in there. Because women can't do anything. Come on.
Well, I mean, does then that make us have to think that it's more? Are we supposed to look back on it and just be like, well, she wasn't evil the whole time, kind of like what we admire about the setup for the first one?
There's no ambiguity about it, though. Like the movie is pretty much like, no, she's evil. And I mean, you would assume that there's someone carrying the quote unquote naturally carrying the fetus instead of it being implanted later would be naturally evil. Oh, that would be a funny thing where, she's like, I'm pregnant with Alexander. I've got these, the mob, Karen York is like, I've got these weird cravings, like kind of want some ice cream and can I get John the Baptist's head on a silver platter? That sounds real good right now.
Oh, honey, I knew you'd have some weird needs.
Your wacky crave pickles on John the Baptist. It's so weird. But yeah, so it's just this really convoluted thing that now that's baby is born and so Damien can actually have power. Again, Jesus has come to earth.
Yeah.
And like Alexander's dad is just a congressman. You just keep setting these weird roadblocks for yourself, Satan. I don't understand why you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Side note, is this the same condition that Belial has in Basket Case? Like,
I don't know. I mean, it seems very likely that
is supposed to get subsumed or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like it would be, that she'd basically get a quado out of the thing.
Right. I mean, that would have been
No, she's
rad.
able to somehow, it's more just weird that the thing, it was a twin that's somehow viable. It's a huge jump to make. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And it's, they just drop it on you like, oh, of course it's that. And it's like, there's like 15 minutes left in the movie. And
It thinks it's smart. Doctor tries to pull a gun, but Karen ends up stabbing him and declares that she's going to go off and kill Alexander, the new baby. She rushes home with a revolver, but Fairuza Balk stands in the way and immediately gets shot in the stomach. And this is where there's a music score bit that is right out of the Looney Tunes. I mean, this was one of the most egregious poor music choices that I thought, but so funny. Mom walks in with a gun. Delia is holding Alexander, and there's a little baby hand with a little 666 birthmark right on the palm. We're not going for the scalp.
Look at him, how he is.
Yeah. Not going for the scalp this time. It's right on the palm.
It's really obvious. And I'm sorry, that baby needs to moisturize.
Yes,
it's
for sure.
Its hands looking nasty. Who's taking care of that baby? What's that baby skin routine?
Yeah.
She's like, well, under the influence of the baby, I guess, or Delia. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's at all clear. Like, I don't know if the baby influenced her, if Delia influenced her, or if she's just kind of like pulling a Catholic Church thing and just being like, I'm out. Bye. I'm not dealing with this.
Someone else's problem.
This is someone else's problem. She shoots herself, but it's honestly unclear under whose authority or possession or volition this is. So,
but then, gunshot, cut on the gunshot to funeral, being lowered into the ground. And then the dad walks away with holding Alexander, holding the hand of Delia as they walk for a very long time through the cemetery until they hit a road where the end credits could play.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, it made me think of Dark Place. There's a scene in the first episode where Garth Marenghi's like walking up
Yes.
Douglas is like walk up, and it takes so long for him to get there. And that's all I'm thinking of is like, why is this going so long to get to the road? Like, I'm not contemplating anything. This is all very dumb. Just end already.
I did enjoy that they got in one last upside down cross in that shot. I think it's the two roads right there. As far as that being the ending shot and not thinking about anything, I did think of for like a half a second, like, I'm not saying I want the Omen 5 to come out and be this, but I kind of like the idea that now this guy who is so oblivious does not think that his daughter, and certainly not his son, are anything but just kids. You know, he's going to go off and raise them and be a politician and that kind of thing. And I guess little sister or big sister is going to raise up the Antichrist the next time while he continues to be oblivious.
They're both Damien's child. So like, do they do the fusion dance and become like a super devil?
Ooh, there you go.
Are they like the Wonder Twins? It's like the idea of like a gruesome twosome might be kind of fun. But I do like that it doesn't seem like the dad's in on it or whatever. He's just oblivious and doesn't want anything to do with, like, why are we fighting? I can't deal with this stuff.
Right. Look at this
I've
face.
got committees I'm on. I don't look. I don't know how to process anything other than chin.
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
Right. All right. Let's honor our dead. Sister Francesca, played by Joy Coghill, dies of a heart attack during a fight with Yvonne. Father Hayes, played by David Cameron, died of unknown causes. Morris Crichton, played by Sergei Houdet, decapitated by loading truck ramp. Joe Thusen, played by Anne Hurd, fell to her death after being pushed through a window by Ryder the dog. Sister Yvonne, or Felicity, played by Megan Leitch, killed by venomous snakes. Earl Knight, played by Michael Lerner, struck by a wrecking ball. Dr. Lewis Hastings, played by Madison Mason, stabbed with a scalpel by Karen. Lisa Rosselli, played by Andrea Mann, shot to death by Karen. Karen York, played by Faye Grant, shot herself with revolver. 9 big bodies this time as we close out Omen 4. It is funny because I know fans of the Omen refer to, the trilogy, and a lot of people just kind of forget that this one even exists, which is fair, because it's not a part of the Damien trilogy, if you will. So this one does really feel like such an outlier because it goes nowhere, considering we followed 3 movies with the previous character, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah. I mean, this is exactly what you would expect from it's a TV movie, but essentially like a straight to video. Like, you're like the Omen. It's like, well, it's kind of the Omen, but it's a lot worse.
Yeah.
It's just like got some air of the original involved in it, but it's really, really lacking.
Yeah. And it is, it's funny because we praise at least 2 or 3 performances in here, and a movie of this caliber, this late in a franchise, especially for a straight to DVD or a straight to cable type of thing, usually wouldn't have that great of performances either. But, the mom, kid, PI, I enjoyed watching all 3 of those.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it is a huge slog in places, but overall I've enjoyed this more than, because just like how dumb a lot of it was compared to, say the later Pumpkinhead movies.
Yeah.
Like where this was just like, if it was visually a little bit more interesting, because it's very just like TV looking, just
right.
And the soundtrack wasn't so bad. I might be a little bit more of a champion for it, but I still would rather there's just some really fun, dumb stuff that happens in this that really tickled me. But yeah, it's a bit of a slog.
Yeah. I don't know. A few good bits just for the silliness sake, but this is not one I can say like, we've discovered something new in the Omen series.
This movie's kind of like WebMD for religious moms, where every tiny little thing is like, well, that's the devil. That's the devil. So if you would like to have that feeling,
sure.
If you are Carrie White's mom or that God Warrior from Trading Spaces or whatever that reality show was in the mid 2000s. this might be the movie for you.
If you really like inverted crosses found in or other just normal everyday objects, this is the movie for you.
Yeah, if you are 13 and have graduated from making the cool S symbol into making pentagrams
on your folder. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, not a whole lot to wrap up on this one. So next time we're diving into the remake, and I admit as I started watching part 4, I was just like, okay, so we've only got one more in here, and I do admit I'm afraid of the remake, and I'm afraid that it's just going to make me not just bored but kind of angry, like taking all the things that I really love from the first one and shoving it through a remake factory. That's my ugh. Why do we do this?
I don't know. Like I'd rather. I'm just worried about it being like so like self-serious and glum and not being able to handle that well. But we'll see.
Not a single neckerchief in sight.
Yeah,
not a single David Warner in sight. Probably
that's true.
There could be a cameo.
No, he was still alive.
He was still alive, so there could be a cameo. Okay, I take that back. If there's a David Warner cameo, maybe it'll get a full extra star out of me.
Yeah, so 1 star. We'll see.
So, yes.
Real quick before we fully wrap up, we didn't get a chance to do this with when Becky was here last week, but I did want to bring up a couple of notes, listener comments I got about the Omen 2 episode. Listener Jacob Effort from New Mexico told me that he was alone and listening when we could not remember the fourth horseman, the fourth horseman of the apocalypse, and was shouting at his computer.
I was so glad to hear that. Yeah.
So that makes me happy. And then in our conversation with Jolene about neckerchiefs and jabots, Dr. Aaron Myers, PhD, wrote us and said, I'm listening to your podcast and hearing you talk about the jabot. If I may, first of all, the reason the cosmetics company is called Jabot is because it was founded by John Abbott. So it's like a double entendre moment. John Abbott, Jabot. Also, that doesn't, Victor Newman doesn't even own Jabot. I mean, he kind of did at one point, but Jabot is the rival to Newman Cosmetics. So I'm going to have to leave out Apple Podcast Review now. So if you are as mad about Young and the Restless as Aaron is, feel free to leave us a review, but make sure it's 5 stars.
Yeah.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts and other places.
Yeah, you can talk about our lack of knowledge as far as Young and the Restless goes, but just couch it in a 5-star review. I mean, we're all fighting the algorithm here.
What you have to say.
Yeah, for sure. Please.
I also want to give a special shout out to listener Christine Greco for solving the mystery of David Warner's head. Commented on our Instagram. Greg Nicotero has the head, quote, most of the stuff in that museum is stuff from my actual collection, up to and including my favorite joke, which I am probably the only one who will laugh at it. The decapitated head of David Warner from The Omen, Nicotero says. While we were writing that, the head went up for auction and I won. I actually bought it. We have it and restored it. That was the first movie decapitation I remember seeing that blew me away. So thank you, Christine Greco.
And you can find us on Instagram at This May Hurt a Bit Pod. Hurt a Bit Pod on YouTube, and you can email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com. So until then, check us out there. Watch the Omen remake from 2006, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Good night.
Good night.